Hi, I'm Chris Pluntz, and we're going to get into a little technical type fishing with dual crankbait type fishing on a single pole. And what we're going to do is three-way. And most people know of three-ways as a simple little three-way bracket that basically are for live bait rigging. And what you have here is three loops. And as you'll notice, the three loops do not stand up like they're supposed to all the time. And that's due to the fact the way they're designed is if you're going to pull lures that way, these two here will help work as a spreader to pull your two lures farther and farther apart as you're pulling on your pin. It'll keep them from running together. And that's the main way of a three-way, is just to spread out your lines so they can't interweave with each other. The three-way was designed to do live bait, so you'd have a stopper hanging down with a lead and a live bait rig running up. That's what a three-way is normally designed for. What we're using it for is to run crankbaits. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to set it up so we can run a topwater number 5 Rapala or Husky Jerk, whichever you prefer. All shallow water baits only run down 3 feet. Then we're going to go with a tail dancer type bait on the lower half, which will run down 6 to 10 feet, depending on your lead back. We're going to go to our line tamer, and we have our mono set in. Spool mono 12-pound test. I prefer red because red's easier to work with and see what you're doing, and it blends in the water column the first 6-7 feet down. So what we want to do here is pull off a good arm length for starters. Get a good arm length line. You can measure if you'd like, so forth and so on. And then we're going to go into the knot system. So the first thing we want to do is basically attach your snap to the lure. So you just have a standard metal dulock snap, any size you prefer. And we're going to take and go through the eyelet of the dulock twice, like so, and then just snug her up. And you'll have a long tail. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take and pass that underhand and through one more time and snug her down as tight as we can get it to the loop. I prefer to use 2 overhands in that unit. And then just make sure your knot slides over and through. And then all you have to do when you get down that far is get a hold of your tail and take him out, but always leave a little tail. And that'll help keep algae and weeds and stuff from piling up on your lure. And the reason this dulock is a principle to snap onto your crankbaits, so you can change your colors and your styles of your baits as you go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn around and attach, your three-way to your rod and reel setup. So what we'll do there is we'll find the lead one. There's the 2 that are close together, the 2 that are far apart. You want to go to the oddball one because the other 2 work as a spreader. That's your lead one. Get your lure all the way up to the top here. That's where the key is with this modern day equipment. And you want to be about roughly 5 to 6 inches below your top eyelet for travel. Okay? And now what you're going to do is you're going to go back down here to your number 1 bait. And what I like to do for traveling these baits is to hook them on the bottom of my rods, like so, and run them to my three-way. That's the best way to travel with these baits. And what you'll do is you'll mark your tag right about there. So that's where your line's going to be tied onto your three-way, is at that distance. This knot here, you want to do a trailing knot, which basically you're just going to go through the eyelet twice. Always go through your eyelets twice because that keeps water abrasion down. Go around 6 times and then back through both holes. You'll see both wheels are sitting wide open, and snug her down. But like I do is I stop short of pulling tight and just wet them a little bit so they don't burn. And then you should be able to snug them right in and work that knot up close. And then just give it the good old bounce to make sure she sits. You can pull on knots as long as you want, but a little bounce will let you know if it's weak or not. this knot, and same notice, it's one of the fastest and strongest knots on the market. They will be tested later, so stay up and tuned on our overhand knot, double overhand knot, and I've been using this knot for over 10 years on the rivers, night, and everything. And it was invented because as we get older, our eyesight fails, and it's hard to thread. But once you get threaded twice and do the overhand, you don't need a book or a magazine to show you how to tie this knot. But it is 2 pounds stronger than any mono that you tie with it. If you tie with 6 pound, it's 8 pound test knot. And we'll have that on scales later. So same thing, take out a good armload of line out of your line tamer. And the same thing here, but now here we're going to make sure we go with a diving bait. Our first bait was a shallow running bill, and our second bait's a deep diving bill. The idea is to get the 2 baits to separate in the water column. This will pull down 3 feet, and this will pull down your other 6 feet down below this one. So these two will be tracking simultaneously, but one will be always lower than the other one. Hook your rod. Hook your lure on the back of your rod. Mark your line tie off. And back to your trilene knot for your 3-way and your other available. Your trilene knot 6 times around again. And back through. Wet them. Snug them. And tag them. And you'll have 2 tags sitting up there to help catch debris and stuff from following your lure. Always make sure your lines are all rolled and snugged in where they belong. Basically, there you go. You'll have your 2 lures on the bottom of your rod. Things stretched. Whatever. Anyway, the trick is to have 2 lures on the bottom of your rod. Your 2 monos run up each side. Your main mono runs up the center. Now that extra 5 inches of line that I told you to save, you can crank that and snug your lures tighter to the bottom of your rod. And that's the trick to mounting all that and getting them to run. Now, for presentational, to make these lures work, you'll be typically taking and setting them in the water. So what you want to do is you want to get at your diver bait first, because this is going to go to the deepest, and you basically lay him in the water system. And he'll basically hold down in the water, like so. And you put him in first, and then what you do is you'll set your second one in the water system. Anyway, here's the idea. And so basically what you'll have is you'll have your 3-way, and then you'll have your deep diving bait, which will pull downward. Because of the bill and stuff like that, it'll run down lower, and then about 2.5 feet up, your surface running bait will track up in there. And that's the whole idea of a 3-way, is to separate and run 2 presentations at one time in the water column. The cool part with 3-weighing is it gives you the opportunity to run more than 1 lure. But what you got to watch is your fish and game laws. Feel free to call them at any time. You can go right on the web and find out for Washington, Idaho, Midwest, or wherever. A lot of states allow you, like Erie and stuff, this is considered 1 hook because it's 1 unit. In Washington, this is considered 2 hooks. Each individual hook is a hook. Even though it's a treble, it's all welded, it's all 1-piece hook. So what I would recommend, because you're only allowed 3 hooks, is on your higher one, if you're only going to run the 2, is to run 2 trebles on your small bait and take off your front lead treble on your diving bait. And that'll help keep it all the weeds and debris in the bottom. And you can put a single on the back or whatever you want to do, but this is considered 3 hooks. If you leave 2 on the top and 1 on the bottom, that's only a 3-hook system. It's legal in your state. So just check your regulations, and that's a nice little tip to make sure you stay within the laws, because they will say something if given the opportunity. But feel free to call send me your input to Pro Angler, and let's go fishing and catch a few fish. And I want to hear some feedback on this, guys.